Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Honest Conversations with Charlotte Dixon from Charlotte Dixon Consulting. And today we have the brilliant Kirsten joining us. Hi, Kirsten.
Hiya, Charlotte.
It's so nice to have you on. We had a little chat a while ago, and I just felt like we could have talked for ages. So, just to get us
So
sort
we'll
of kick,
we'll do it today.
just to get us kicked off, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, hello, my name's Kirsten Paul. So I am a co-founder of Brasneck, which is a content and communications consultancy. We built it 18 months ago, and it's purely for the Scottish tech ecosystem. So my background has been working with technology companies from a PR perspective I'm coming up for 20 years now, which is insane.
Wow.
And really, that kind of, I feel where we're at with AI is so interesting. And not only from the technological side, because I'm working with clients who are kind of promoting the skills and the products in it, but also as a kind of business owner as well. That's kind of coming together. On top of that, we've got that layer of working in within a creative industry as well. So there's a lot of complexity, but a lot of excitement around AI between in what I do.
Yeah, and I totally hear you on the complexity and excitement, and I think this is what a lot of people are grappling with right now.
Mhm.
How do you feel about AI at the moment in the context of business and of life?
Mhm. I mean, it's a bit like Marmite, isn't it? It's like very much you have to be on one of two camps. You have to be absolutely advocating it, loving it, weaving it into every single thing that you do, or you think it's the end of the world. But I think I want to think that I'm in that kind of happy medium because I think it's a technology that we have to embrace. And certainly from articles I'm reading and things like that, it's next year it's going to kind of move into 2026. It's going to be even continue to be that kind of catalyst that really drives businesses. But I think we have to be mindful of its use and how we use it. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's that embracing, but being kind of, I guess, cautious and open to learning how to better use it.
Yeah, definitely. And you have quite a unique experience and insights, I think, around AI because of your work. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So again, as I say, I've been working with technology companies for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
And I would say over the probably last 4 to 5 years, we've really seen that adoption of AI kind of increase considerably. And again, it's that kind of it's used for good and bad because we see cyber criminals kind of automating their processes to really kind of attack organizations on scales that we could never considered. But equally, it's also being used for major health discoveries and identifying cancers that maybe the human eye wouldn't necessarily see. So I've been able to kind of talk to all of those types of topics with the organizations that I work with both now and have worked with in the past. So it's one of those topics, and it's funny because in attending tech conferences with clients, it's almost that, well, if you don't mention AI, you have to mention AI. It's really important that you mention AI,
Yeah.
even if you're not an AI business. It's that kind of topic du jour that everybody
Yeah.
feels that they need to have an opinion on. So it's really, really interesting in the kind of the field that I work with.
Yeah. I have found myself talking to leaders about because I mean we won't go in too much into recruitment today, but talking about recruitment and other areas in which you can use AI, and it just surprised me, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I it was kind of predictable thing to happen, but people saying to me, well, if I get somebody who a CV or whatever that sent through and the person says they feel comfortable with AI or confident using AI, then obviously they're going to have more potentially more chance of getting the role than somebody who doesn't mention it. So I think I completely concur with you about everything it feels like it has to be always be mentioned for people to sort of show that they're on the ball and on top of it. But you work with a lot of different tech companies, right? So what are you noticing about the challenges or the the things that come up around AI with adopting it?
I guess, as I say, from a kind of implementation perspective, there's varying different ways you can bring it to life, and organizations are bringing it to life in lots of different ways. I guess within a kind of PR and marketing, creative industries perspective, again, it's one of those things that people are still learning how to use it and use it in the right way, because we need to be so cautious about how we utilize client data and what we feed into the generative AI tools. So
Yeah,
there has to be that transparency about when and where you are using AI. I think in my day to day, it's really, really useful when I'm on video calls with clients to transcribe calls. So I spent much of my formative years taking minutes in meetings, and that's now a thing of the past. So, kind of junior people within agencies won't share that pain, which is a good thing because it was torment at the time. But it's great to be able to kind of get that transcription back and call on it, particularly when I'm creating content. So if I've had a briefing call with an organization, there's maybe some kind of technical terminology that's been brought up. Sometimes when I'm handwriting notes, because I can't touch type for the life of me, so I have to handwrite my notes. There might be something that I miss. So having that transcript from that call is really, really valuable. It's also brilliant in terms of aiding research, reviewing really kind of hefty reports and documents and pulling out the key takeaways. So it really does help from a productivity perspective.
yeah,
I guess where it starts to get a bit murkier, and this also leads into kind of journalism as well. And I'm working with journalists all the time, is that content creation perspective. And I think that's where that whole, I guess, we're in a limbo with regards to when and where is appropriate to utilize generative AI for content creation. And we've seen recently some kind of big clangers within the media world, whereby in a newspaper report, that very final paragraph basically was the AI tool saying, "I hope I've got this right. Sometimes I get things wrong," and the sub editor and the editor and the journalist had missed that point. Uh, and it really starts to impact the reputation, not only the journalist, but the publication as a whole. So when
yeah.
we are using generative AI from a content creation perspective, we need to be really open and transparent and make sure we're checking the work, because again, there's a lot of people I will speak to and they go, "Oh, I hate when I know immediately when I've seen generative AI kind of use because it's got Americans English, or it's got those really long dashes, or it utilizes a whole lot of jargon like leveraging and optimization and things like that that we would never use in everyday language." So yeah, that's kind of it's really interesting where we're at right now.
That's so interesting, and actually, that parallels something that the an earlier recording that I did with Alex Hislop. He mentioned that he still has this 9 to 1 rule that for him it's because he's chief customer officer. It was
Mm.
about making sure that you do 9 hours of prep for a 1 hour of client meeting, and even in the example he gives about using AI for an amazing innovation that the engineers at the time would never have come up with themselves. They still, after that creation, needed massive human oversight to do the editing and make it appropriate for context. And I think that sort of is coming through actually in the stories when I talk to people. It seems that actually AI can be incredibly valuable, but it's just a tool, and that people are needing to have that oversight. And even people that I talk to who are I'd consider them like tech experts, really could do software engineering stuff. They'll say like, well, you can only use it for certain things, and actually when you use AI, and I guess right now I'm talking about ChatGPT and Google Gemini, but there'll be other things, but they say that are probably more tech advanced that the average person doesn't use. But they're saying how you have to have a knowledge of how things work to be able to spot the errors that AI makes. So without that knowledge and that experience, you would probably just take it as is and then run with it, which is is one of the massive challenges. I'm really curious if you have any more thoughts on the ethics of how to use AI when it comes to data, because I mean I recently ran a workshop on leadership with some startups that were scaling up, and one of the topics I gave them to sort of consider and mull over is if you came across an AI bot or whatever it is app that could optimize your sales, but you knew that actually it was going to be at a disadvantage to a minority group, and potentially, I can't remember the exact wording I used, but it was something like essentially be discriminatory or prejudice in some way, or put them in a worse position, even though it would benefit your business, would you use it? And I think this is where I don't know where it'd be interesting to see where the law is on this. I'm not sure if it's been cooked, but I'm wondering how businesses are dealing with this, because I imagine there's this sort of really tricky balance, I think, in organizations where it's like you have to be successful and use AI. If your competitors are using AI and they're optimizing the way they work and potentially reaching out to customers in a better way in terms of for profit, then you don't want to be left behind. But also there is some ethical considerations to be made around that. I don't know if that's come up for you at all.
It absolutely has. And there's kind of in pieces that I've written on behalf of organizations that the bias that sits behind AI is significant because to stereotype it, these tools are typically programmed by white men, whatever the age they are, whether they're kind of younger or graduates. That is the stereotype that sits behind this technology. And from a data perspective, what you put into AI is what you're going to get back. And if you're only putting in a kind of really kind of subset or a sliver of the kind of the full data that you have, because that's what's organized and structured and easy to input, you are really not representing your audience, the kind of the wider society at large. So really, organizations that I speak to, they totally advise that you need to take a step back and you need to get your data in order before you do anything if you're going to want to start on that AI journey, and also be really critical about the source of that data as well, because there will be data sets that maybe benefit your business that don't exist and never have existed within your organization. But there's publicly available data sets that we can call on from government kind of public data, or the ONS, for example, as well. All of this can kind of be brought in as well to maybe mitigate some of that bias that may already exist, and to extend the story that you're then able to tell, and I guess the insight that you're able to garner from that data as well. So it's important to really take a really critical look at that data so that you are getting the best value insight back. That in itself is a task, and it's a journey for a lot of organizations who maybe feel the pressure to jump on the opportunity of AI right now. But really, kind of to your point, I don't think you can't lay all your eggs in that basket with regards to that data if you've not if it is missing out kind of a particular portion of your audience.
Yeah.
It won't do you well in the long term.
That's so interesting. Do you find different organizations are approaching AI quite differently, or is there sort of a similar trend you're noticing in how they
I
do
think
it?
it varies. I think we've got some organizations are just using it from a productivity perspective, the recordings, the transcripts, the analysis, and that's fine. And certainly data that I'm seeing from the media as well, that's kind of the heartland of what they're using it for. It's kind of transcription, it's translation, that type of thing. Where there are kind of some really exciting startups, and we are really fortunate in Scotland to have some brilliant startups that are creating or using AI. You've got Tomorrow, you've got DeepMiner, you've got, I mean, there's a whole wealth of organizations. I could be here. That would probably take up the rest of this kind of conversation. But some of the organizations are working really hard, and data is where that all starts. And doing a whole kind of review of the data that exists internally, but also, as I say, I think it's just as important to kind of look externally and pull it all together. Because when you've pulled the kind of the data from the open data sets that exist as much as the data sets that you've maybe created internally, that's where the really rich kind of insight comes from.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thanks so much for sharing your insights. So you're in such a unique perspective, I think, of having sort of eyes into lots of different organizations, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit similar to my coaching experience, is that I talk to lots of different people and I feel like I'm having similar conversations, and the fears that come up are um, I think it'll be interesting to see in 6 months' time whether they're the same. A lot of the leaders that I work with right now are either struggling with AI themselves and thinking like this, it feels like an enormous thing to try and sort of
Mm-hmm.
almost master, even though actually we talk about taking things a step at a time, and also and then some leaders are sort of they're in but with both feet, but they're finding their teams aren't really jumping on board, and how do we support them to jump on board, and obviously I deal with like the mindset side of things, and how people think and how people can approach AI with digital mindset workshops and things like that. But I'm curious if you were to give one or two bits of advice to leaders right now when it comes to AI adoption, what would be your bit of advice that if they just have one thing to think about or one place to start, what would you give as advice?
I think it's don't pressure yourself to go all in. I think there is, with any technology adoption, you almost need to run the pilot and see how that works.
Mm,
The success of that pilot is only as good as, kind of, as I say, your data is so important, but your people are even more important. And making sure that they are brought on that journey with you, as kind of any change management consultant will say, that kind of that culture that exists within the organization can be the driver of success or failure, and bringing them on board early on to get them involved in understanding why AI is maybe going to help them, allaying any fears about the kind of that it's not necessarily going to impact their jobs and their roles, because that's the kind of narrative that we have been given. And I think
yeah.
it's remaining kind of really firm in the position that humans will always be important. AI is not a leader; it's an assistant. At the end of the day, it's the tool, as you say. So making sure that people are involved in the process, in the adoption, in the use is so important. And anybody that kind of gets that wrong, really from a comms perspective and the way that I'm looking at it really could harm an organization's reputation. So bring your people on that journey, and alleviate any concerns, and answer any questions that they might have.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I really genuinely believe that as well. That I love that phrase you just said, like AI is not a leader, it's an assistant, and that people are so important. Like leadership is so much more than input in and input out, right? It's so much, sorry, input out, you know what I mean? Data in, data out. Leadership is so much more, and having the skills and the knowledge and the experience and all that stuff that goes along with leadership. I think people need not be fearful of this tool, because even though it can really have huge value, it doesn't have all the value. It doesn't hold everything. Well, amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. It's
And I
been
think we
lovely
still,
having you. Oh, go for
no,
it.
thank you so much for having me. I was just going to say, I think it's that we also need to acknowledge the fact that we're just at almost at the start of this journey. Whilst
Yeah.
AI has existed as technology for since the 50s, really our understanding, our modern use of it is just growing. So we also need to give ourselves a little bit of slack and acknowledge that we are learning individually and collectively, and we need to lean on each other to do that. So sharing when things have gone right and things have not gone right, I think, is also really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And my hope is partly this video series will help with that. But I think I'm excited to see, definitely in the rest of 2026, how that then evolves. And hopefully we can have more collaborations between the humans to help support that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kirsten. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you, Charlotte. I appreciate you having me on.